Device Talks. Welcome back to Device Talks Tuesdays. We've got a great episode for you. Title is Smart Silicone's Evolution from Insulator to Conductor and Beyond. It's brought to you by our very good friends at Freudenberg Medical. We'll have a presentation that I'll go over in just a moment. A few bits of housekeeping, but before that, I just want to give you a heads up that this will be our last Device Talks Tuesdays episode of the winter-spring season. We're going to take 3 weeks off. Next week, we're going to be preparing for Device Talks Boston. The week after, we'll be at Device Talks Boston. The week after that, we'll be collapsed somewhere, recovering. So we'll be back on May 14th. So let's get started. All right, so we do have a great presentation for you. The resources are available in the, or rather the PowerPoint is available in the resource widget. So make sure you download that. If you're watching this live and recognize you have a friend, a colleague, or a relative who would benefit from this information, and I'm sure there are many, let them know that they can watch on demand. Go to devicetalks.com to register. They can watch it as if it's live. They can pretend it's live. They can even ask questions, and the questions will go right to Freudenberg, and you'll get answers. So it's nearly as good as being live. We'll take questions at the end of the webinar, but as always, ask them as they come to mind so we know how many questions we're managing. And if it's a question that we can address right at that time, we will. But most of our questions will be, again, addressed at the end of the webinar. Quickly, we have podcasts, lots of podcasts. Go to devicetalks.com to check out all these great podcasts, or subscribe to the Device Talks Podcast Network. So these podcasts, future episodes of these podcasts are sent directly to you. Finally, the aforementioned Device Talks Boston is happening in just 2 weeks, May 1st and 2nd at the Boston Convention Exhibition Center. I'll be there. Our producer, Amira, will be there. So we hope you'll be there. If you are there and are going, please make sure you stop us and say hello. It'd be great to meet many of you in person. So once again, if you'd like to register for that, go to devicetalks.com or more directly, boston.devicetalks.com. All right, once again, thank you to Freudenberg Medical for putting together this great conversation. We've got an excellent panel that's going to review some case studies regarding silicone. We'll be leading off with Daniel Kaltbeitzel. He's the head of engineering at Freudenberg Medical. And we'll also have Lars Geerding. He's the vice president of global technology and engineering at Freudenberg Medical. And Fabio Bambang Oetomo, who's CEO and co-founder of Bambi Medical. So with that, I believe, Daniel, you are going to be taking things from here, correct? I don't know if you're still on mute, Daniel.
Now it should work. Hopefully.
Technology.
Thanks, Tom.
Excellent. Take it away.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, thanks for having us here. And yeah, it's of course not only Freudenberg presenting here, but it's also Fabio, because someone has to bring us an idea that we can then make happen to product. And I think that's the point, to hand over directly to Fabio to show you where it gets started, where the idea comes from, or where we try to challenge a problem. So up to you, Fred.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I will share a bit of our story and our collaboration with Freudenberg Medical. So basically, the problem we are trying to solve with our technology can best be shown by this little video. So I'll start it in right now, and then I'll come back later and tell a bit more. So as you can see in the video, premature birth is a real big thing. So 1 in 10 babies is born prematurely. And basically, the adhesive electrodes that you saw are really required for monitoring the preterm infants, as they have a lot of apneas, a lot of fast and slow heart beating. So the 24/7 monitoring is really required. But current adhesive electrodes have a couple of huge flaws. So it's very painful to remove these adhesive electrodes from the very fragile and thin skin of the baby. You cause a lot of wounds, even infections as a result of those wounds. And the babies get a lot of stress because their arms get entangled in the wires that are part of this monitoring system. In the picture on the bottom left side, you also see the kangaroo care, which is the very important skin-to-skin contact between the baby and the mother. It's being made very difficult. Parents always need a nurse to get the baby out of the incubator. So all in all, it's a monitoring system that is needed, but that should be obsoleted as soon as possible. So what we have done is we have come up with the Bambi Belt solution, and in the next video, you'll get an introduction into this product, and also here you'll see the place where we are based in Eindhoven, the Netherlands. So I'll take you through this video clip and say a bit more after. So before I hand back over to Daniel, I will say that the Bambi Belt solution is a skin-friendly and wireless monitoring device that basically takes away all the flaws of the adhesive electrodes that are being used today. And it gives much more comfort to the baby, much better quality of care. And in addition, parents can easily take their babies out of the incubator and provide the very important kangaroo mother care. So we have developed this product together with Freudenberg Medical, who's now also manufacturing this product for us. And I would like to hand back to Daniel to say a bit more about this from the Freudenberg side.
Yeah, thanks, Fabio. So as you've seen, there are some difficulties to overcome from the, let's say, old or gold standard in monitoring premature babies. And it's pretty sure that the sticky electrodes are one of those main topics that we need to encounter here from the technical side. So the skin adhesion is probably one of the important topics or functions that need to be tackled here. So we need to have adhering properties around sensors so that the sensor quality is quite good. On the other hand, we need to, or like to have, tag-free areas of the belt that you've already seen, to have it better cleaned and skin-friendly touch, let's say. So second point is, of course, then biocompatibility, that it can be cleaned, disinfected, and it's a skin-friendly surface. And of course, the main topic for all of that is that we have to incorporate electronics or integrate electronics into that belt, so the sensors and all the conductive paths that we can lead signals from the skin of the baby to monitor. Fourth point, of course, we need to have mechanical durability. So this belt needs to be flexible somehow, but it needs to still have a durability, so that it can be removed, cleaned, put on again, for instance, and that it, of course, survive the everyday life on an intensive care station. And let's say the second points here are, of course, going more into the ramp up or into commercial things that we need to produce in larger scale. Because of course, all of us hope that we can replace more and more of those sticky electrodes, and then you can imagine that we quite need just more than one or two of these belts. Yeah, and finally, of course, with Silicone, as it already was started in the presentation, we can color it, we can implement logos and customize the design as needed. For instance, with Bambi belt logos and all those good things. So, as already said, we try to overcome all those things by using Silicone as one of our core competencies. Here in Kaiserslautern, where I'm actually from today, and using this material to overcome the problems of adhesion on the one hand, and reduce the pain and by the sticky electrodes, and then of course we have that belt, that single belt, and then it comes back a little bit to what Bambi developed here, that we have wireless monitoring. And then, of course, the kangaroo care can take place again. So the stress is then there, of course, reduced. We have an easier handling for the nurses because we reduce cables. The parents can, as said, take a more active role, and the bonding is way, way easier by using such a belt compared to the now existing sticky electrodes. But good question here is, of course, how do we do it? So the production of such a belt is quite probably the interesting part here. How can we integrate electronics into the Silicone? How can we make it happen that we have sticky surface or parts of the belt and non so sticky or tag-free areas? What we do actually is that we have a two-component molding, where we actually mold the lower surface, lower shell, integrate the electronics with the PCBA and the electrodes, have an overmolding step, and then a top coating application where it's necessary, so that we have a coating where we want to have a tag-free area. And then it comes down to assembly and packaging. So here we can see in that next short video, the production and the components that are integrated, so the flex PCB and the 3 electrodes, they are here now already in the lower shell, which was pre-molded. And then in the second step, the second layer of silicon will be flown over the electrodes, and of course, then the belts are not reworked, but the flashes that may occur, so the optical challenges will be tackled here to have a good product. In essence, you can see it here a little bit more in detail. When it comes down to the two-component molding, we have here the first shot, let's say, for the lower shell. There you can already see the small meanders. Also in the second picture below, where the flex PCBA is then integrated in the second step, so it can be perfectly fit in there, so that it will not move during the second step of overmolding the second layer of silicon. Here you also use, let's say, standards in injection molding, that we have holding pins that can be seen here in those. These are actually below those bars that hold down electrodes and flex PCBA during this second step of injection, the second material. And then in the third step, we apply everywhere else beside the area where we have the electrodes a top coat, that we have a Silicone surface, tag-free surface for better feeling in that particular areas. The final 2 steps is then, of course, assembly of a connector. So we have to have a connection between the wireless connector on the, you see it in the background here, the white, let's say, bone-shaped kind of thing at the end of the belt, which provides the wireless signal to the monitor itself. There has to be a connector. This is assembled as the almost last step. And the very last step is then that we do have an electrical testing, of course, to test the electronic functionality, and of course, then the UDI labeling according standards for such a product.
Hey, Daniel, is the Bambi belt a single-use device?
That's a better question for Fabio, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, of course. I can quickly jump in and answer.
Yes.
Yeah. So indeed, it is a single patient use device. It can last for 10 days on one baby. And the reason for that is mainly that it can be cleaned with alcohol wipes over the 10 days, as also Daniel explained in his presentation. So it can be cleaned. However, the risk of a lot of bacteria and therefore increases over time. And therefore, after 10 days, it needs to be disposed.
Okay, right. And then maybe for you, I mean, it looks like a long process there, a lot of manual steps. Looking at the pictures you've shared so far, is this process going to change how things are being assembled?
Yeah, so the plan is actually that especially the molding of the first component and then the overmolding of the second component should take place in a more automated process in an injection molding machine, which would be here the preferred process, of course, for exactly, as I said, larger quantities. For the time being, the volume is still low, or we are, let's say, in the ramp-up phase, that it's still the better solution to do it in that manual way. But yeah, the plan is to ramp it up as long as we see larger numbers, and we will see them.
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah. So as I said, packaging and labeling was the last step here. And I think at that point, Lars, you can jump in for what else is done or can be done by Freudenberg Medical.
Sure, Daniel. Thank you very much. And that also probably covers a question about, can that process be scaled up? Is that the technology that you would use further down the road? Is when we work with innovations and develop these new processes at Freudenberg Medical, we leverage our Freudenberg Group capabilities. So we have an extensive network of R&D associates and capabilities all around the globe. And what we do is take the capabilities there, look at it through the medical device manufacturing lens, and apply whatever capabilities we have to the medical device markets, for example, for using catheters and devices, coatings, combination products, individual components, and that also comes with the regulatory expertise that we have. So we can look at it through that lens. And since you mentioned the scale up of that technology, that overmolding technology, we do have two-shot capabilities, silicone to silicone, in our facilities. And as part of the tech transfers, we would establish that technology wherever it is needed, depending on the volumes and the requirements in the specific application. This is also how we got to another solution. In the first example that was purely handled by Kaiserslautern and Daniel's team, we leverage these capabilities for electronics integration in a sense of encapsulating electronics and making it feasible for these type of devices. But we also wanted to share with you a second example where Freudenberg's material development expertise played a significant role. This was also executed by Daniel's team, and that's why I hand it back to you, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you. So the second use case I would say I'm going to present here is actually something where we used those Freudenberg-wide platforms and capabilities. But maybe I start one step before, and what we are actually here approaching is a treatment or a therapy that is by far better than what we have, as again, which is a non-invasive sleep apnea therapy. So you may have heard, or maybe are using even those CPAP devices that need to be worn by night during your sleep to overcome the sleep apnea. What here this company did, so it's a Signifier from the UK. They came up with an idea to actually treat the issue of snoring and the sleep apnea in many cases, at least. It is the tongue muscle that falls back during sleep. And the reason for that is actually that the tongue is too small. And by strengthening the tongue muscle, it might grow or will grow. It's actually proven. And so the tongue will not fall back. And how that can work out is actually by an electrical stimulation of the tongue, as you maybe have heard for other applications, let's say. Yeah, and the background for that, or what's needed for that actually, is our second topic here, the path from an insulator to a conductive material in terms of silicone. And here I can briefly show the development history a little bit. So where the idea came from, actually a little bit at least from our colleagues in the sealing technologies in the Freudenberg world, because they have made the same or similar progress from, let's say, standard seal to smart seal, and then which means basically that they have a conductive elastomeric material, so they developed it here, and then it comes to us where we want to transfer such a technology into a conductive stimulating device. So in essence, we had a job ad for a medical compliant conductive component, and developed it with our colleagues, or with the input of our colleagues. What we did here is in many trials, let's say, that we compounded several materials like silver-coated aluminiums, silver-coated glasses, or carbon nanotubes into LSR materials, and see if we were able to receive a compound that suits our requirements in terms of conductivity, and of course of manufacturability. So of course, as well with, or the same as it is with the Bambi belt, we need to have somehow a scale up or a mass production here. As you can imagine, snoring, if we use it as a first example of treatment, is probably something that can be, or is, let's say, something that almost everyone has, or if not yourself, maybe your partner next to you. So in essence, you're somehow a customer. And that makes it, of course, quite interesting here. Unfortunately, it is not sometimes that easy, as you can probably see here. We overcome some challenges, and we had some not that successful trials where, for instance, the material didn't cure anymore, or it was that brittle that it was not possible to injection mold it, like on the left-hand side, the coated aluminium. And the last one, the carbon nanotubes, were just too dark in its appearance. So it's, in essence, a visual. But finally, we found a compound. In this case, actually, it was not longer an LSR material, but an HCR material. And we found the right filler to make it happen, that we have a conductive pathway. And then we have to develop, of course, the production. And the first idea to make it as easy as possible was, of course, to have, again, a low shell, and then mold in that shell the complete conductive pathway, including the USB PCBA, and have everything in place in the machine, let's say, and just as a final step, have it overmolded by, again, isolating layer, which can be seen here in the middle picture where we have basically the intermediate step for overmolding. We found that it is quite challenging to approach such a problem that way. The bullet point here would be shortcuts between the conductive paths, which we haven't overcome, unfortunately. So we step back, let's say, and tried it our way. Well, we again had a 3-step molding processes, but here we just mold the conductive pathway with the USB-C PCBA, let's say, in one process, then have an assembly step, and then an assembly overmolding, which worked out quite well to a certain point. That was the final, let's say, challenge we had to overcome, and that's actually the patient, because those finalized products actually went into trials, went into the field even, and came back more than once not function anymore, which basically was a failure in the conductive pathway, because people somehow like to bite on those things. And then it was the final step that we had, or the final development step in the process itself, that we one step backwards and said, okay, let's go the easy way and take wires instead of the conductive pathway, but still using the material in the pads in the front, because of course the idea is to have a similar feeling of the complete product in the mouth, and therefore you need an elastic material even for the conductive pads in the front and on the side of the product itself. And so we were actually at the final point of development, and that's the current series production process that you can see actually here, where we have a lower shell molding, standard silicon in just white, our conductive material developed over quite a longer time. Then the PCBA with solid wires and assembly step for all the electrical parts into the lower shell, and then finally an overmolding step, and then testing and packaging accordingly.
Daniel,
and that's how.
How long did this whole process take, the whole development, and what was going wrong with some of those early trials? What did you and you showed sort of the visuals as to what was wrong, but what was actually wrong? Why were you having those results?
Let me see. The development took 4 to 5 years, I think, when I remember correct. So it was quite a time, and most of the time actually went into the conductive material development. And as I said, there were several challenges to overcome. Let's say one of the easier ones was the visual appearance, because the requirement was to have it that lightened up as possible. So carbon nanotubes as a pure black material was not the best choice.
Not a good look.
Say. Not the good one, exactly. And with the other ones, we were often facing manufacturing challenges. So either it was too high in viscosity that it was not even possible to process in injection molding, or what we also have seen actually, that the material didn't cure any longer because of the conductive filler in it. So it seems that there were some primers in that material in producing the conductive filler itself that prohibited the curing of the LSM materials, which was actually interesting to find out, because of course it was then a larger challenge to figure out what it could be. And then we were quite fast in the IP of the filler manufacturers, let's say, and they didn't want to reveal everything, of course. And so, we had to choose something different here. But these were the main challenges, I would say.
And is the conductive material you make, is it proprietary to the customer, or is it available to all your customers? How does that work?
It's not proprietary, but the point is more that it always needs to not redevelop, but let's say adapt it to the customer's needs, depending on the requirements of the conductive path, or whatever product it should be actually.
Okay.
So it's not one fits all, let's say. It's not that easy.
Daniel, I would probably add to that this is the start for our conductive modified silicones, right? It's a first application, first use case. It's by far not the end of the journey. And as with every material development, we would be looking to improve the recipe, improve the processability, and therefore the outcome, depending on the application, whatever the specifics is. I think the most important part is what Daniel mentioned here is the aesthetically pleasing aspect of things. Really, if you look at a mouthpiece, the color black with carbon nanotubes or fillers of the like was prohibitive, right? So that's why we, in this case, chose this path. But that still means that other options are available to us and that we could implement according to the application's needs.
Interesting.
Exactly. All right. So maybe last but not least, some words to what was then the next in the full picture, let's say, of the mouthpiece production. Of course, we started with single cavity molding. We're now at 2-cavity overmolding already, which is still a longer or challenging process because you have to be manually inserted into the molds. But also for the conductive material, we improved in higher cavitation molding, which was also challenging in terms of material behavior in the molding process. And last but not least, we at Freudenberg try to constantly improve our processes and maybe even the product if possible, which can be seen here for some of the components in that mouthpiece. So the PCBA design was adjusted to better fit overmolding overmolding processes. We improved the packaging materials with our customer together to have their higher output in the end. And also used several lean approaches to improve the process, reduce scrap, and have better outcome in assembly and testing processes. And now we are actually at the point to not only serve Europe with that product, but also the US for several reasons. And this might be another handover to Lars to tell you how that's gonna happen in the future.
Thanks. Let's just advance. Yeah, when it comes to globality and our technical offerings, I mentioned initially with the first example that we do establish tech parity between our sides, and this is another perfect example where we really do that and live and breathe what we promise. So in this case, the use case for the anti-snoring device that Daniel just shared, the customer specifically asked us for the same offering out of our Beverly, Massachusetts facility, and we're very happy to do that and enable that. And of course, that means that we don't want to reinvent everything in the US, but that we do take the technology as it is readily developed in Kaiserslautern, take our lessons learned, and implement it in Beverly for the same customer experience and a flawless launch. That also goes for other technologies. We just set the key KPIs here, or the key metrics on the slide. Freudenberg Medical does have a global footprint. We have a revenue of more than 400 million in 2023 and our 2,800 employees worldwide. And that entails 11 global sites, 11 global manufacturing sites, I should say. So we are able to give our customers the same technical and product offering for multiple locations all around the globe. If you do want to learn more or take a deep dive into the case studies that Daniel just introduced to you, you can also find that on our website, freudenbergmedical.com, where it's all about enabling digitalization of smart medical devices. under that headline, just to share that link with you. And of course, you're also very welcome to connect with Daniel or myself via LinkedIn or per the email address that you can see here on screen. Very happy to talk to you and answer any questions. And answer any questions is exactly the point of the presentation that we are at right now.
Good segue.
So, yeah, whatever questions you have, more than happy to answer those right now.
That's great. We have got a few questions in the queue from the audience. Folks, feel free to continue to send them, and we'll get into them. The principal question I always like to kind of kick off with is, what size of a company do you typically work with? Do you work with larger companies only, smaller companies only, any company? What's your if you have a sweet spot, what is it? But what's your range of clients? What's in size?
Yeah, I can take that question, and the answer is we absolutely need to work with companies that are in the startup phase. We need to accompany them as they grow and scale up and the technology matures, and we need to work with big medical OEMs for higher volumes and larger industrial scale type applications. And the reason for that is usually you don't start a project at a high volume, right? So it's always a journey, and without having that large scale manufacturing mindset, we would not be able to work with startup companies and provide the design for manufacturability and scale up mentality. So one does not really go without the others. We need to work with startups to get to high volumes. On the other hand, the startups benefit from our experience with higher volumes in the earlier design stages.
Great.
Maybe I can briefly add to that, Lars. Just my experience as indeed one of your very small customers. I mean, it's amazing. That's what we really liked from the start. I mean, the commitment on the side of Freudenberg Medical in Kaiserslautern to really work with us and really join our mission and feel very strongly about what we're trying to do, and basically, take it from the small numbers that we're selling today, but also think about the scale-up phase and how we will basically create a production line for volume production. So I think in every phase, and we have worked with a lot of different development and manufacturing partners, and I think you guys are unique in how you really are there for your small customers in every step of the way. So that's my experience working with Freudenberg Medical.
Fabio, your case study of an N equals 1. I'd love to just understand, in your case, where were you at in the development of your device? What had you identified silicone as a material? Just kind of take us back to the very first moments when you were engaging with Freudenberg. How developed was your idea, and what was that partnership like moving forward?
Yeah, so what we knew, actually, we started off with a different technology, which was printed electronics on TPU, but that didn't work. So we had to go back to the drawing board, and we came up with the idea that we could put a flex PCB into silicone, and then we went looking for suppliers that saw this would be a successful development. And actually, a lot of the other suppliers we talked to, they said, you have a great product, great idea, I mean, great impact for the premature babies, but what you're trying to do to sandwich flex PCB into silicone, it's too difficult. We don't think it can be done.
Really?
But the team, absolutely. But the team in Kaiserslautern or Freudenberg Medical, they wanted to take on the challenge. They said, we think we can do it. So we really started. We made some of our own prototypes that we showed to the guys, and then from there on, it was really side by side, developing the product further together, working out the nitty-gritty details that you always encounter in development projects. So it was really great Bambi Freudenberg collaboration to make it happen, and seeing the results, a belt that looks really it looks like a real medical device, but also it looks very friendly. And that's also the feedback we're getting from the parents. I think in all of that, it was a great collaboration to get to that endpoint.
No, you definitely need that visual. Daniel, what is the challenge when integrating the PCBA into the silicone? It sounds super easy. I'm sure it's not.
Yeah, it would be great if so. No, actually, several things. So it depends a little bit here on the product. But yeah, for the Bambi belt, it can be said that the movement of the flex PCBA in the mold or in the lower shell prior or during overmolding is one of the larger challenges actually. So because they will put up to the surface, which is a no-go, of course. Second point is if we have active or passive components on a PCBA, like for the anti-snoring device, the soldering material has to be chosen wisely in terms of temperature, because silicone molding takes place at quite elevated temperatures, so that is a challenge in terms of output in the end, and even functionality, of course. So there are several topics to actually have in mind when overmolding active passive components or PCBAs.
And again, just for a sense of time, how long were you working together on developing this idea once Bambi came to you with the problem that needed solving? Is this a period of months, years? What's that time frame?
More years than months.
More years, okay. It could just be lots and lots of months, but yes.
Many months. No, I think we started 2019, when I remember correct. And I think last year we received, or Bambi received, the CE marking.
It does have a couple of months, right? And that depends on your initial question, probably, Tom, what the maturity of the idea is when customers approach it, right? How far away are we? Where are we with our technologies and the synergies for such an application? I think the underlying question that you asked is really what is the difficult thing about integrating a PCBA into such a device? And that is similar for most of the electronic integration activities. It's you want to have some electronic component free floating, fully encapsulated by the silicone. And that's a difficult task to accomplish, and it needs mold design, it needs features, it needs process control, it needs material know-how, when it comes to flow in the cavities and so on. So it's a difficult task, right? It sounds easy, but it is not.
And I'll say 3 or 4 years with a pandemic sandwich in between is not a lot of time in medical device land. So I think we all understand the bigger picture. We've got some questions from the audience here. First one from Sabno. Are medical grade silicone polymers only suited for LSR molding?
So LSR is the liquid silicone rubber, which is intended for injection molding, but you can also cast it, of course. So what also is possible to use HCR material, which is high consistency rubber, usually used for extrusion of tubings, but can also be used as a molding material for injection molding parts, actually. The resulting properties are a little bit different in terms of what the material can actually.
The material history, development history goes a little bit the other way around, where in the past or in earlier developments you had HCR. HCR is usually difficult to feed into the injection molding machine. That's why liquid silicone rubbers were developed, so that material could be pumped to the machine, to the screw and barrel, and easily fed to the process. Right? It's easy, it's clean. That's why it's usually used in medical silicone molding.
Great. Question from Thomas. Is the transmitter reusable? Parentheses, the part that plugs into the belt.
Yes, it absolutely is. So the belt is single patient use, but the Bambi bridge, as we call it, this dongle, it's reusable, it's battery operated, and it lasts for at least 72 hours.
Okay. Question from we'll go up to here, Zizu. What type of material? What type of the material is the top coat of the Bambi belt? And again, what's the function of the coating?
So yeah, the function is actually because the silicone itself, when it is even when it's fully cured, is quite tacky, and the top coat actually supplies a coating that makes the silicone surface feeling more silky, like so it's a tag-free surface afterwards. And actually, the top coat is actually the brand name already, so it's off-the-shelf material.
And Fabio, what's where is the belt commercially available, or is it where are we in your development again? You did present, yeah, you did speak to this, but just refresh my memory.
No, sure. So the belt received the CE marking, so it's now available in Europe, and we actually started our focus launch this year. We now have one customer only, but on purpose we are going slowly to just get a number of key opinion leaders and hospitals on board before we're really scaling. So this year we'll go to a couple of other Dutch, German, and Swedish hospitals, and then to the rest of Europe. But don't worry for you guys in the US. I mean, the next step in terms of regulatory is also getting the FDA approval and being able to sell in the US. So that's also coming, but Europe first.
Excellent. Question here from Madun. Any basic standards for materials in finished products?
That's a pretty basic kind of generic question. So we do work with, we're not constrained by the materials that we use, right? We work with all large scale silicone manufacturers and suppliers. And with all of them, you find a pretty broad set of materials that can be used in medical applications. It comes down to how to process them. Like we initially had that conversation about liquid silicone rubber versus high consistency rubber. It depends on the application, what your mechanical requirements are, what the application needs for material, any kind of secondary processes, and so on. So there are a lot of questions to be asked, but that's the bad news. A lot of questions need to be answered. The good news is there's also a broad range of materials that we can choose from.
Interesting. Just broadly, what are the challenges when dealing with microelectronics in the production environment? How difficult is that?
Good question. Yeah. So actually, the manufacturing area for the Bambi belt especially was designed that it is ESD protected, that we actually do not have any issues in handling those microelectronic parts. So it starts with the floor covering and it ends with the clothes of people, the clean room clothing that people are wearing during the production there actually. So even the folders for the paper stuff are ESD protected. So yeah, you have to think about it and you have to take measures to not damage components prior to even using them or overmolding them.
Mm-hmm.
I think an important aspect to that is also the functionality, the functional requirement of the component that we manufacture. Usually in component manufacturing, you would manufacture according to a print. You have your critical to quality dimensions on there. You measure, you make sure you're in spec, and you ship the parts, right? And here we have to also make sure that the electrical function of the parts is given. So we had to set up a lot of testing capabilities to make sure, the part fulfills the requirements, that nothing went sideways when integrating the electronics.
Yeah, so you have to have the complete supply chain. So in essence, you have to have the complete supply chain, at least from entrance of facility to product going out. you have it all inside, or you need to have it all inside.
I was actually going to ask a supply chain question. Is it? They always seem to come up during these. How is the supply of silicone and I don't know. I honestly don't know where it comes from. Has there been any difficulty in securing the materials you needed in the past? Do you anticipate any difficulties in the future? What is this sort of contingent upon to make sure you have enough?
Daniel, you can answer from a K-Town perspective.
Or we can just pretend I never asked the question.
Let's say where I start. So yeah, of course.
I'll pretend my mute button was on. We'll say. No.
No. So probably remember this big ship in a really small sea blocking a lot of ships,
yes.
other ships.
Yeah.
So there were some constraints, let's say,
yeah.
But they were overcome. But there were other constraints as well in the past, but just short ones actually. But yeah, we had a small interruption there. But that's overcome fully, and we do not see any constraints here today, at least.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense of what applications might be in order in the future for this material? What other spaces we might see use this type of material? I don't know if it's going to be neuro, or I mean the apnea device, I guess, would be a neuro-like device, but where do you see this application heading?
Yeah, in general, we still see a continued trend towards electrification of medical devices in general, not only on the component level, it's more or less on the device level. Devices get smaller and smaller and smaller, and at the same time, the functional integration gets bigger, the requirements get more and more, and the electrical integration is certainly one thing, and that's what we're answering here in these two use cases, with a electrically conductive modified material, but also with an insulating and encapsulating material. But we do have other applications out there as well, for example, in the catheter field, where we work with electrical traces along the catheter shaft to allow connectivity of the sensor from the distal end to the proximal end, in the handpiece, the connectivity to enable and establish that.
So would that be for a cardiac ablation sort of device, or
electrophysiology and ablation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So how compared to the materials used today in electrophysiology and this, do you see this, would this be a larger leap forward for the space? I've talked to folks at larger companies about the sensor technology, and that never really kind of had occurred to me that you needed to have a sensor at the end of the thing just to know that you're not going to go on, oh, I'm bumping up on something. You need a little more information than that. I mean, having something like this would seem to really, I guess, put us in a position to really advance the electrophysiology field considerably.
Yes. I don't think that we will mold anything like a catheter shaft from a conductive material, but in general, the electronics integration and working with electrical traces and how to integrate those into the catheter shaft, that changes currently, right? Where wire fishing of the past, painful in manufacturing, you would see conductivity issues, you do see shorts. It's just a very cumbersome process. And by, for example, printing electronics, you could come to smarter, better solutions that fulfill volume requirements much better.
Very cool. And final question for me, and folks, if you have any more questions, please submit them now. We'll be wrapping up shortly. You showed your map of all your facilities worldwide. Is this material available to everyone at all of them? Are you localized in one area? I'm about 20 miles from your Beverly plant. If I were to go down there, could I find some of this silicone down there?
You can visit me here.
Oh, are you in Beverly? Oh, okay.
You can have a coffee. Our facilities do have a technical sweet spot. Some of them are suited towards silicone molding and extrusion. Some of them are more geared towards thermoplastic molding. Some are more in the minimally invasive device space. But we do make sure that we have global availability of all these technologies in our facilities. So for example, if you're interested in a silicone product, you can get the same thing from our Kaiserslautern, Germany facility, from the Beverly facility, and from the Carpinteria, California facility. And for minimally invasive devices, it's very similar. We do serve the Minnetonka area out of our office there. We do have a manufacturing plant in Jeffersonville, and we have a very, very similar product offering out of Carrick-on-Shannon in Ireland.
Okay, fantastic. All right, well, we've got Daniel and Lars's contact information up there. If you'd like to ask more information, you can find them there on LinkedIn or send them an email directly. If you have any more questions or want to follow up from Freudenberg, please just put a little note in the box as I'm saying goodbye, and someone from Freudenberg will reach out. So this is a very, very complete presentation, very cool technology, and eager to see where it takes us. Thanks so much for being part of Device Talks Tuesdays today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Excellent. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Device Talks Tuesdays once again. Don't forget, we won't be around. We'll be around, but we won't be putting on an episode next week, the week after, or the week after that. We've got Device Talks Boston coming up, so that's going to take the majority of your time, and then I've got to go pick up my son at college the week after. So we'll be back in the middle of May with, I guess, the start of what we'll call our spring summer season. And please check the lineup, register, and join us at a future episode. And thanks again to Freudenberg Medical for putting together this great presentation for Device Talks Tuesdays. Take care, everybody.